And we'll do it live. We'll do it live. Topic of today is how to get rich quick. How to get rich quick. How to get rich in 5 minutes or less. How to get rich in 5 minutes or less. It's easier than you think. Much easier than you think. I'm very optimistic today because I was watching the news and apparently Mike Johnson has realized that he's not going to be able to give Zelensky $750 billion, which is nearly, like $750 billion, won't be going to Zelensky, which means a major de-escalation in the war with Russia over Ukraine. Major de-escalation. If they don't get that $750 billion or whatever it is, that is a major de-escalation in the war against Russia over Ukraine. And that's good news, particularly for the people of Ukraine, too many of which have been killed by this policy of Washington, D.C., and Victoria Nudelman, Kagan, and Zelensky, and who's that other guy? Klitschko, Zelensky, Nudelman, all members of the B'nai B'rith International Jewish Mafia, along with the Jesuit Pope Francis, have caused massive amount of death in Ukraine. Antony Blinken is also a Ukrainian Jew. That's just a fact. I'm just saying that's their interest. Their interest is their religion, their ethnicity, and the territory that they want to reclaim, which they believe is part of their ancestral homeland. So anyway, that's that. And of course, the Pope likes it too. The Pope and the Vatican are 100% for whatever these. It seems like anytime the Jewish mafia is doing something, the Pope is doing the exact same thing. They work together. I don't know who calls the shots. Is it the Pope or is it B'nai B'rith? I don't know. But the Pope is always on the same page with the Kagan, Nudelman, Antony Blinken, Zelensky, Soros. You see, it's like CIA, Soros, the Pope, the Jewish mafia. They're always on the same page, always on the same page, always on the same page. Why is that? That is so strange. So anyway, you want to know how to get rich, though. You don't want to hear me just talk about politics. You want to know how to get rich. Well, I'll tell you what, getting rich is really easy. All you have to do is worship the light, which is the truth, which we call Christ, the eternal King. That's all you have to do. And then you have to do some other things like not be a sick degenerate. So here, let me give an example. I walk around. I feel rich. I walk around, and one thing that would make me rich really fast is if other people were also following the light and the truth. That would make me rich. See, if other people followed the light, which is the truth, just the truth, you're like, but Brian, what's the truth? The truth is the truth. What is the truth? The truth is whatever the truth is. The truth is what it is. What's the truth? The truth is the truth, man. Get a dictionary. Look up the definition of truth. That's what we're talking about. The truth as a subject. So worshiping the truth goes a long way as far as your happiness, your well-being. And then, because see, if you walk around and there's a bunch of people, see, if I go outside to walk my dog and it's a bunch of people that are nervous, worried, anxious, troubled, addicted to drugs, see, that makes me poor. That makes me poor because I'm not surrounded by other people who are also worshiping the truth and the light. You see? The way to get rich fast is to worship the truth and the light and get other people to worship the truth and the light. So if everybody's mind is dedicated to the truth and the light, then you're rich really quick. It's really easy to be rich. And it's a complicated thing because as long as I've been alive, which is 51 years, as long as I've been alive, I have been subjected to lies and subterfuge from the bulk of the institutions that we depend on for survival. Let me give you an example. When I go to the grocery store, and you may have noticed this too, when you go to the grocery store, notice how all the food has poison in it. Notice how all the food has canola oil in it. It's disgusting. It's disgusting, right? And so when I go to the grocery store, I have to. There's like I can buy an egg. I can buy some untainted milk, like some grass milk. I can buy some cheese. I can buy a piece of meat. I can buy, I've been getting some sausages that don't have artificial anything in them and don't have sugars in them and don't have nitrates in them and don't have like you can find it, but you have to sift through all the trash, right? You have to sift through all the garbage. And it's same thing with the vegetable aisle. It's like I was eating apples for a while, and then I realized that the apples are covered in some kind of a film. It's like, oh, all the apples are so pretty and shiny, and there's no bug holes on them, which is good. I don't want bugs in my apples. But I'm just saying, and then you look at there's like this shiny film on there that doesn't wash off, and you can put it under the hot water and it melts. It's like, dude, what am I eating? Am I eating lacquer? And it's like it's called I think they call it some kind of carnauba wax. It's the same stuff they put in your car wax. So anyway, the food is covered in poisons and a lot and sugar. And so you look at the people and you're like, I look at what people are buying at the store and I'm thinking, oh my God, you're going to eat that? That's going to kill you. So I have found some pretty cool stuff. In fact, look, see, I got a bag of pecans. Those are good. I've got some Himalayan sea salt. That's pretty good. The best thing that I've had recently is this. This is the first time I ever bought this stuff right here. They need to become my sponsor for the show. This stuff right here, dude. Oh my God. Now look, let me give you an example. See how much is gone? I ate all that last night. I ate this whole container almost. I ate almost this entire container of honey, of raw honey last night, which is like, oh, but that's like, how many grams of sugar is that? It says 16 grams per serving. And normally, if I were to eat like cane sugar, if I were to eat that much cane sugar or sugar that's even processed honey, I don't know what it is, dude. I couldn't stop eating it. And also I ate it with this piece of wood. You don't want to eat it with metal because the metal, copper, silver, stainless steel, metal will kill the bacteria that's in the honey. It kills the bacteria in the honey, right? Those metals are antimicrobial. So I ate that almost entire container of unprocessed honey. I've never eaten it before. And I slept like a rock. And I woke up feeling incredibly good. And my vision was good. I mean, I'm wearing glasses because I'm on the computer. But I notice every day how food affects my vision. Can't believe it, dude. I slept until like almost noon. And then I felt incredible. I don't know what it is. That was amazing. Whatever is in that, it's just unprocessed raw honey. That was incredible. I'm going to be buying more of that. It wasn't cheap though. But there was no like sugar hangover, which was weird. You would expect that big of a dose of sugar to give you a massive sugar hangover, and I got nothing. I had zero negative effects. But I'm not just here to talk about food. But okay, so here's the thing. What do you need to be rich? You need an unlimited or an infinite supply of things that you need to survive, right? An infinite supply of things you need to survive. That's how you get rich fast. You have an infinite supply of everything that you need to survive for the rest of your life. Well, the first thing you need an infinite supply of is the truth. That's number one. You need an infinite supply of the truth. Then you need an infinite supply of other things that you're required to live. The fact of the matter is, what your body needs to actually live isn't that complicated, and it would make sense to just specialize a human diet based on the things a person needs to live, and to have these things in sufficient supply around, just to have these things in sufficient supply, and to focus on producing those things only. You know, when you look at a cereal aisle for a child and it's processed wheat that's grown saturated in, Monsanto poison, and then mixed with sugar and corn syrup and canola oil, and then that's what you're feeding children, that's making everybody sick. That's making everybody sick. What we need is here's what we need. We need cows. We need cows and buffalo and bison and whatever you call that, bovine animals, roaming around North America, roaming around South America, roaming around Eurasia. And you need them all roaming around freely, eating the grass and and affecting the soil. This reverses what's called desertification. You get these massive deserts, and that can be reversed by cattle. Cattle reverses desertification. The people who are trying to, the people over with Bill Gates that are trying to inject cows with stuff to prevent them from giving off methane, those people are insane. What you need is more cows roaming around. When you concentrate all the cows into a small area, it gives off gases which are hard to breathe, right? And you notice it. They're not supposed to be contained like that, right? So you need to have them roaming around. So what you need is the cattle roaming around freely. You need to organize your freeway systems and highway systems to allow cattle to move around without being affected. See, now that would cost money to build an infrastructure like that. But guess what? People need jobs anyway. Okay? I'm not going to say bad words. People need jobs. So, that'd be a great job, is to give people a job building the infrastructure to transport people and goods around America and South America and Eurasia without affecting the wildlife or without affecting the cattle, the migrations of cattle, right? Now, when you go to harvest the animal, you have harvesting areas where the cattle can be processed into, cut them up and freeze them so you can ship them out, put them on trains and have them shipped out to population centers. But you know what the most humane way is to kill a cow? The most humane way to kill a cow like that is for hunters to go out and shoot the cow in the head or in the heart and kill it, and then freeze it and process it and freeze it and ship it. That's the most humane way. You know why? Because the animal is never the animal is never captive and held in captivity. And a bullet hitting you, believe it or not, hurts less than you think. Getting hit by a bullet actually doesn't it hurts, but it doesn't hurt it hurts in it. So you know how, like, when you get injured at first it hurts, but it's not it's like it's a pain rush. So there's like a mix of pain with adrenaline. And so it's not like you're really, like, even the suffering that you're feeling on an immediate basis, it's matched with adrenaline and possibly unconsciousness. So that's a lot different than, imagine, what would you rather, how would you rather die, as an animal or as a human being, right? In a battle, running, charging an enemy, getting hit by a bullet, boom, you're gone. Or would you rather be arrested and housed in a scary facility and moved into a line and put inside of some kind of container, and then you know what I mean? Like the whole process is terrifying. Whereas being out in a field on a sunny day or a rainy day, fighting with a enemy would be a perfectly humane way to go, as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, we're talking about getting rich quick because everybody wants to get rich quick. Well, the first thing you have to do to get rich quick in 5 minutes or less is you have to follow, worship, dedicate your mind to the truth, which is called the light. The light, called Jesus Christ, called the light bearer. I'm not going to say his name, but the true light bearer is Jesus Christ. From Genesis 1:3. And God said, let there be light, because that whole religion from Genesis 1:3 in the story of Noah's Ark, which is the sun going through the calendar, and the golden ark, followed by the 12 tribes, that whole religion is based on the light, the metaphor of the light, the symbolism of the light. And Jesus Christ is the light in Genesis, and Jesus Christ is the light in Exodus, and Jesus Christ is the light in Joshua. That is the light. That is the same light. Of course, the stories are different. People go, well, why is the God of the Old Testament so violent? Blah, blah, blah. Because they're different authors. Different authors write different things. That's why. See, it's really simple. Because people write books and they write them the way that they're writing them. And some people write them this way and some people write them that way. And over time, a lot of authors who were all Israelites writing about the same thing wrote it in different ways. See, and so it's the same thing that they're writing about, but they're writing it in a different way. So they're writing it a certain way. Some of them used war allegories or analogies, but it does that. So all that stuff's secondary to the important thing, which is the truth, which is the light, and that's the thing that you should dedicate your mind to. Once you do that, everything else is a piece of cake, except for the fact that other people aren't doing that. When you walk around, there's a lot of people dedicating their minds to pure evil. Who are some of those people? The people in Washington, D.C. Those are some of the biggest criminals that we have on the planet Earth, and they run our media, they run our banking, they run our military, they're in charge of our security. And who do they like? They like Al-Qaeda. They're bringing in Al-Qaeda from all over Syria and Turkey and the Middle East and Arabia and Afghanistan and North Africa, and they're bringing them all into Europe, and they're putting them in these big Al-Qaeda training camps to kill us. So that's a problem. But my optimism today is that Trump has gotten Mike Johnson to say no to about $750 million. No, I'm sorry, almost $750 billion to go to Ukraine, which means a major de-escalation in the war with Russia against Ukraine, which has cost the lives of about 1 million Ukrainians. So the thing is our religion, the people of Europe, our religion is the religion of the light, the religion of the light. And if you want an orthodox version of that, that's purely orthodox and structured, that's called the Orthodox Church, which exists in Russia and Ukraine and Syria, and you have the Roman versions of that. And if they're still practicing it in a pure state, then I guess they're also Orthodox. I just have a problem with the Pope, and I have a problem with the result of the Jesuits and how they dismantled the religion in favor of something weird, whatever you call it now, whatever you call the church that my mother went to, that I visited a few times. Whatever that is not Christianity. It's just some weird satanic CIA, ADL, Mossad mind control cult gets people to worship Jews in Israel. It's just weird. So that's not Christianity. Christianity is the worship of the truth and the light. That's what it is in its purest form. And that was the religion of the Orthodox Church. And I dare say that was also the philosophy of the original Templar and Masonic orders that were rooted in that were founded by the Book of John. Dog's biting himself over here. I gotta check it out. Of course, there's a big. Well, actually, the Masonic lodges were welcome in Russia among the aristocracy, and they were welcome in yeah. So at one time, the Orthodox Christian centers of Western and Eastern Europe all welcomed the Masonic lodges and the practice of Masonry. And as far as I can tell, without really knowing a whole lot about it, but just having gone through some of their literature in for instance, the Encyclopedia of History of Freemasonry with Mackey, it's all based on the Bible. There's nothing outside the Bible. It's not satanic. It's not anything. And so I think, and so that's why I think it was. That's why I think it was very much welcomed among the aristocracies, the Christian, Catholic, Orthodox aristocracies of Europe, until it got used by the Jesuits as a way to overthrow the aristocracies. That was, I think, the point at which it became distasteful. But it was distasteful to the Pope before that. So before that, it was distasteful. So at first, it was distasteful to the Pope because they were what were they doing? Because they were forming these Masonic orders among the aristocracies that were kind of giving the monarchs a sense of autonomy from the Pope. That's how it started. That's why the Jesuits had to infiltrate it, overthrow it, and turn it into a weapon to use against the monarchies. So it went from something that was part of the monarchy network, was then infiltrated by the Jesuits on purpose because they were the anti-Enlightenment people. They were the anti-Enlightenment. So they were there to subvert the Enlightenment movement. In many cases, they were running it to subvert it and then use it to overthrow the monarchies. And so that's what happened. And so the result of that is what you have now, which is fake Christianity. And people think it's the Freemasons or whatever that were behind it, because the Freemasons were captured by the Jesuits and used to overthrow the monarchy and bring in this new order, which then became a channel for the Rothschilds, such as the Rothschilds who sponsored Pastor Charles Taze Russell, who was basically like the founder of what became the Jehovah's Witnesses. Of course, they removed Christ from their doctrine and made it all about Jews and Israel. So they just removed Christ and then turned it into a Bible study where Christ is given prophet status, same as Islam. So that's kind of what they did. They turned Christ into a prophet of the Bible, and it made the allegory of Christ totally irrelevant. Not even understanding the allegory of Christ, not even understanding that he's the light in the story. Anyway, I don't want to go through that whole thing again. But in John 1, Christ is the light from Genesis 1:3. So the Freemasons were worshiping the light, which is the truth, which is Christ. See, because that's what it says in John 1, and that's the cornerstone of Freemasonry is John 1. So that's one of the four Gospels. Unlike the Pastor Charles Taze Russell, who relegated Christ to irrelevancy because they were backed by the rabbinical order of the banking houses that were under the rabbinical system through the Rothschilds that used Freemasonry, because the Masons allowed everybody in, right? They're like, oh, anybody can worship the light. And so the Rothschilds, of course, that's how they infiltrated, because it was open to different people, Muslims and Jews, because it was open to them, it became infiltrated and then used as a way to overthrow the Christian aristocracy in Europe and give us what we have today, which is BLM, LGBT, Satanism, Al Qaeda, bases all over the US and Europe run by the CIA in Washington, D.C., with the express purpose of killing off the white European Christian civilizations in Europe, in America, in Australia, and in the Middle East as well. Killing off the Syrians, killing off anywhere there's Christianity is being targeted by the CIA and their Al Qaeda bases. With NATO, NATO was founded at the end of World War II to keep the Americans in. This is one of the heads of NATO said this: keep the Americans in, keep the Russians out, and keep the Germans down. Keep the Germans down, right? So why, if you're Germanic, if your race is Germanic, Germans are the race of your, like, you look at a map of Europe, it's Germania, right? That was all Germans and Celts. And so now you have an institution in the heart of Europe, whose stated goal was to keep the Germans down. Then that means you want to kill off your own race, because that's what they want to do. They want to kill you. That's why NATO is an anti-white, anti-German, anti-Christ organization. That's why they brought in the Muslims. Because the Muslims have been allied with the rabbis since the Dark Ages. That is the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages is the rise of the rabbinical writings and the Islamic writings. That was the rise of the Dark Ages, because Christ is the light. And the rabbis don't worship Christ. They worship their own teachings, their own interpretations, their own doctrines, their own traditions. And they invented Islam to raise an army. They raised an army out of Arabia to smash Palestine, to smash Syria, to smash Iraq, and to conquer Anatolia. And they successfully did that. And they've held those territories through Islam. And you're like, but now they're going back and they're trying to get Judea and call it Israel. And now they have to fight with them. They're only fighting with the Muslims because they're the boss. This is our land, bitch. This is our land, bitch, is what they're saying to them. So they'll kill them right off too. They don't care about them. They only care about them as how they can use them. And how they can use them is to, right now, let's give an example, attack Assad, attack Russia, attack America, attack Ireland, attack Europe, attack Germany, attack France, attack England. Does London look like a Celtic empire to you? Does London look like a Celtic city to you? Or does it look like Al-Qaeda? Looks like Al-Qaeda to me. Looks like an Al-Qaeda base. That is London today, is an Al-Qaeda base. And it wasn't, and it was the governments that won World War II that defeated Germany with the help of the Jesuits who tried to kill Hitler. Defeated Germany. It was the Jesuits that tried to kill Hitler, because they've always been working with the Jewish mafia and the Sicilian mafia and the Corsican mafia, the drug traffickers that traffic the heroin out of Turkey and into America. They won World War II, and they hate that they're a poisonous breed, and so they want to kill. They love to kill. They love to kill Christians. They love to. So you got to understand. You look back at the civilizations that we created: white, Western, Christian, European civilization. It doesn't get better than that. It is the ultimate. It is the ultimate living standards. It's the ultimate in beauty. It's the ultimate in happiness and joy and just like living a happy, decent, civilized life among your kindred people. Like that was the ultimate goal, and that was achieved until it was taken out. And the rise of taking that out, it wasn't always, I'm not saying everything was always perfect, but the rise of taking that out really began with the fight over the colonies between the Jesuits and the King of England. And it also goes back to the rise of the whole Puritan movement and the Neo-Protestantism. There is no purifying the Bible without understanding it's truly like Egyptian roots. And see, all of that stuff that you go back to in the Bible, people call it pagan. Christmas is pagan. The Puritans didn't even have a Christmas. Well, because they're not really Christians. See, it does come out of paganism. All of the philosophy of religion comes out of paganism, but that doesn't mean. See, the difference between paganism and Christianity is in Christianity, you're not worshiping a pagan god, you're worshiping the truth. Now you can create an icon of Christ to symbolize the truth and the light, but you're not worshiping the icon. And if you are, you just don't understand the religion completely. You're worshiping the truth. The icons and the imagery and the stories and that's all there to just teach. That's there to transmit the ideology. Those are the symbols used to transmit the ideology. Jesus on the cross is a symbol used to transmit the ideology that the darkness sought to kill Christ at Golgotha, which is the skull. See, Christ is killed at the skull. And when Christ is killed at the skull, darkness comes over the earth. Well, that's because they tried to kill him. Here, right? The light was, they tried to extinguish the light. They tried to extinguish the light. They went to kill the light. That's what that symbolizes. So all those symbols, you don't worship the symbol, but the symbols transmit the ideology. So when you take away all the symbols, you don't have the ideology. And so the Puritans were wrong to try to do away with Christmas. And we are always right to celebrate Christmas, right? It's a pagan holiday. Every holiday that's ever come out of any religion, Old and New Testament alike, and all the holidays of the other religions who claim to be, whether it's the Jewish religion, those are based on pagan sources too. The Muslims religion, those are like, it doesn't matter what it is. What matters is what it is you worship. In Christianity, we worship the light, which is the truth, which symbolizes Jesus Christ, born on the winter solstice, because that's when the light is born. So now we're not worshiping the sun. I was just having this big argument with atheists. They're like, because I was in an atheist group on Facebook, and I said, Jesus Christ is the light. Oh, the light are photons and radiation, blah 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 blah. I'm like, dude, are you stupid? Are you really stupid? You don't know that the light has dual meaning? Or you don't understand English? In other words, they have to be stupid. They have to remain stupid in order to not understand the words you're using, because then they would have to admit that you're right, and they'd have to admit the whole Bible is correct, and that Jesus Christ is the light and Jesus Christ is the truth. So you'd have to admit all that. But instead of that, they go, well, the light is radiation. Blah, blah, blah. Well, we're not talking about the light. Well, we are and we aren't, because it has dual meaning. See, Jesus Christ is the light, meaning he's the truth. But the light is symbolized as a physical light, which is the sun. So he's the sun, but he's not the sun really. It's the sun. The sun is a symbol for Christ because it's a way to transmit the teaching through time. So you can point at the sun. Go see the sun. The sun's a light, like Christ, the truth. See, the truth is like the light. Blah 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 blah. See, it's just a way to transmit the teaching. That's all. It's that simple. So anyway, the way to get rich quick is to worship the truth, and then you're rich. You have everything. When you have the truth, you have everything. When you love the truth, you have everything, and your mind is pure. And that's where you want to be. And then after that, the way to get rich quick is to have other people worship the truth, because then their minds are pure, and instead of being degraded and seeking death, they seek life. So I'd like to one day walk around. I would like to one day live somewhere. I mean, I just know where I live. It's not a, where I live. Okay, where I live is not a low income area. Okay, I live in the lower income part of one of the highest income areas that you can live. What people think this is the greatest place in the world to live, and that's because they come from some other place. Like they come from some other country, and they come here and they think this is like amazing. Well, to them it's amazing, but to me it's not that amazing, because I know what it could be like if it was if it was Christian and if it was European and we, our kindred people, were together worshiping the light and forming our own civilization, it'd be way better. It would be way better. And then they'd really think it was something. Then they'd really think it's something. Because right now it's very commercial. It's very like everything's oriented around making money, and whatever a person, like, I'll give you an example. We've got these beautiful hills in Laguna Beach, in the canyon, and they just keep tearing them up to build houses so that people from China can come over and live in a house in the hills in Laguna. It's like, that's a waste. Why not just let the coyotes have it? You know what I mean? Like, that's a waste of the land to just keep developing, to take all this beautiful land and just keep developing it for people from China or some other country, India or some other country, wherever in the world, to come here and just live here. Well, why don't they just live where they are? Like, why do they have to live here? They have nice weather there. We have nice weather here. Why live here? Because of the weather? Because they're on a hill? It's like that alone isn't a reason. You know what I mean? And so so what I'm saying is there's more important things than just like commercializing everything, right? That's not the way to get rich. So then, because I'll give you an example. In order to maintain this system now, this capitalist system, now they have to import cheap labor in from Haiti and Mexico and South Central America, like Latin America, China, and Africa. So then the whole thing just becomes maintaining this system of capitalism through importing poor populations in to work as basically like low income workers. Like, that's not a civilization. That's just stupid. That's just stupid. It's just a waste. It's a waste. Okay, that's what I'm saying. It's a complete waste of America. It's just being wasted on nothing. That's garbage. And you're doing the same thing to Europe. You're just wasting Europe on garbage, right? It's like, instead of developing, let's take Ireland as an example. Instead of developing the Irish culture and the Irish people and their religion and their language of Gaelic and developing their architecture, instead they're just finding a commodity to sell or produce there, and then producing it cheaply by bringing in people from Africa to replace the Irish. Okay, but that's a waste. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of Ireland. Like, why do that in Ireland? Why don't you take, if that's what you want to do, if you want to give low income jobs to low income workers that are from Africa or somewhere else, why don't you take your company and move it down into Africa and then run it out of there, or run it out of Haiti or wherever? Why don't you move it down there? Why don't you just move it over there and just leave us alone? You see what I mean? Why do you have to bring foreign population slave workers here? Why don't you just go there and then leave us alone? See, it's really so it's a waste. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of all this territory, right? All this area here, Los Angeles, Orange County, San Diego, for example, all the farmland that's been sold off to the Chinese, that's up in the Central Valley. Like, you've got all this beautiful farmland, all this rich farmland, and you're just going to sell it off to Chinese so they can have Chinese farms. And now, once you build these massive agricultural centers, the wildlife can't move around through there, so it kills off the wildlife. That's what I'm saying. It'd be better to have wild cattle and wild horses and wild everything. You could still have vegetable garden. Like, how much vegetables? You can grow vegetables all over the place. The important thing is the meat, the cattle. Vegetables, you can grow vegetables just about all over. You can grow vegetables in your garden all home. If everybody's, replace all the lawns with vegetables, fruits and vegetables, avocados, citrus fruits, and you've got vegetables and fruits and vegetables and nuts and pecans and walnuts and whatever growing all over the place. Almonds, pistachios, you can grow that all over the place. So it's not like you need these big Chinese corporations to come in here and grow all that for you. You can grow it. What we need is we need wild grass-fed cattle roaming around, developing the deserted parts of in the valleys and also in the deserts to helping reverse desertification, having a massive food supply of delicious, nutritious, clean food. It would just that's all you need. Anyway, the good news is Ukraine war is de-escalating. Let's see if we've got any news on that. Let's see what the news is on that on Twitter. Let's see what we got on Twitter. What is the news? Russia has blown up Roston Bridge leading to Homs to stop Al Qaeda advance. Good. Good. Unfortunately, see, the Russians are actually fighting Al Qaeda and Islamic terrorism. The Pentagon is supporting them, not only in Syria, but in Europe. That's the crazy part. The Pentagon and NATO are backing Al Qaeda bases in Syria, in Iraq, and in Europe, in Germany, in Ireland, in France, all across Europe, in London. They've turned Western Europe into Al Qaeda training bases to kill off Christians and go back and fight other people all over. That's their whole program. It's terrible. What else is going on? Fully vaccinated Fox News Dr. Kelly Powers, who survived an on-air heart attack, dies from turbo cancer. I don't know if I'm allowed to even say that on this video. That was in the news. I'm just reading the news. Well, I'm glad she was vaccinated, though, because that's important to get your vaccines. That's the important thing I have to say, that the vaccines are fantastic because they come from Dr. Fauci, who's a real doctor who loves you and cares about your health. And he's a Jesuit, and the Jesuits are fantastic. I love the Jesuits, and I love Georgetown University and the CIA, and I love the United Nations and the World Health Organization because they care about your health, because they are fighting to end poverty, because you don't want poverty, and poverty are poor people. So you got to end poverty, and you got to take your vaccine, and that'll help end poverty, because the more people that take their vaccine, the less poverty there's going to be in the world. Get it? That's how that works. Nick Fuentes says Israel and the United States are literally helping ISIS and Al Qaeda take over Syria right now. That's correct. He is 100% correct. That is exactly what's happening. It's clear as day. It's clear as day. Clear as day. Breaking massive deployment of Iraq's popular mobilization forces en route to Syria to support Assad. Good. Iraq is helping to fight Islamic terrorism now, but the U.S. isn't doing anything. The U.S. is helping Al Qaeda and ISIS. That's horrible. Hopefully, Trump can put an end to that if he wants to, because Antony Blinken. So, who supports Al Qaeda right now as we speak? Antony Blinken, who's Jewish. He's a Ukrainian Jew. Antony Blinken supports Al Qaeda. Antony Blinken and the Pentagon. That's all run by. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a mystery or a secret that Zionists run Washington D.C. and Pentagon. Is that a secret? That's not a secret anymore, is it? I mean, isn't that common knowledge? AIPAC. That's a real thing, right? I'm not just making this up because I hate Jews or something. I don't hate people based on their religion so much. I actually hate them based on their what do you call it? Their works. I judge people by their works. So Antony Blinken, who is Jewish, I don't hate him because he is Jewish. I hate him because he supports Al Qaeda and supports the Ukrainian war. So I hate that. I hate that. That's what I hate. I hate war for I hate war for LGBT, BLM, creating migrant hubs in Europe, and supporting Al Qaeda. I don't support any of those things. So I hate war for those things. So I don't like the people doing that. So I'm identifying like, who are these people? The people associated with the CIA, which is associated with Georgetown University, which is a Jesuit place. And then you've got Antony Blinken and Noodleman, Kagan, and Zelensky and Klitschko and the whole gang, who are all connected to the B'nai B'rith Masonic Jewish order, which is not really Masonic. You know, it's funny. Originally, if you look at the original B'nai B'rith Lodge, they used an upside down pentagram, which a lot of people said, look, Satanism. And that's what I thought at first. I'm like, but I didn't really think it was. I just thought, why would they use an upside down pentagram for their original, for the first B'nai B'rith Lodge that they founded in Los Angeles, which got torn down a long time ago? Why would they use an upside down pentagram? And so I looked into it and I found that that was actually a symbol from the New Testament, which makes sense why they don't use that anymore. But because that's what I'm saying, Freemasonry came out of the New Testament. Freemasonry was Christian. It's not now. Now it's the Jewish mafia. It got taken over by the Jesuits and turned and merged with the mafia and merged with the Jewish mafia. But the reason why the B'nai B'rith Lodge originally had a 5-pointed pentagram, which of course now is considered a symbol of Satanism and Lucifer is Satan, and Satan is bad, and Lucifer is bad because Lucifer is Satan. Well, not originally. Originally, Lucifer was Christ. So they turned Lucifer into something evil called Satan. And Anton LaVey has an upside down pentagram as the symbol of the beast, but that's not what it symbolized. No, it was a symbol of the New Testament. There were 5 points of something or another in the New Testament, and so that became a symbol of the pentagram. In other words, those symbols were made into something evil to promote evil. And so now people think of it as being satanic, but it wasn't originally thought of in that way, and that's why they had those symbols. Now people look back at, some order like that sorority, what it was called, the Daughters of, what is it called? That women's order. They use the pentagram, the upside down pentagram in that order. That Masonic order. I don't know what it's called. My mom was in it, actually. My mother was in that when she was a little girl. Can't remember what it's called, but it was a Christian thing. It was a Christian thing. But that's why the original B'nai B'rith Lodge that was in Los Angeles had an upside down pentagram, because Masonry came out of the New Testament. That's why. The New Testament and the Old Testament, which both worship the light, which they call Christ, or the light bearer. And that's why. But they don't worship that now. They don't worship the light now. They worship darkness. And if you look at everything that's happened since this group came to power in the mid-1800s, we've been in a prolonged dark age since the rise of the Jesuits. The Jesuits were the counter-enlightenment who masqueraded as the Illuminati. They're the counter-enlightenment that masqueraded as the Illuminati. They claimed to be the illumined ones, but really they were pure darkness. That is really how they masquerade. They masquerade as one thing when pushing another thing. Everything they push is darkness. Everything they push is evil. Everything that they push is perverse and degenerate and satanic. And they do it in the name of illumination because they hate the light. And that's the story of Christ being killed at Golgotha. They hate the light. That is why when Christ is killed at the skull called Golgotha, a darkness comes over the earth. So anyway, they love Al Qaeda, though. They love Al Qaeda, and that's all emanating out of Brussels and NATO, which is the military system, the military occupational force that was put in to crush the Germanic race, okay, after World War II. Hitler was the last gasp of the Germanic people trying to survive as a race. That was the last gasp. That doesn't mean everything Hitler did was good or bad. Which brings me to an interesting topic. So there's different Hitlers. There's the Hitler that the Jews believe in and that the Allies believe in and that you're taught about in school. There's that Hitler. And everything he did was evil, and he was a mass murderer, genocidal maniac. That's the Hitler. That's that one Hitler. But then there's another Hitler that you don't learn about, and he was somebody who cared about his people, and he was a brave, loyal person who cared about surviving his survival of his people, and he was loyal to them, and he was true, and he loved Christ. So there's another one you don't hear about. So it's kind of like Jesus Christ. There's the Jesus Christ in the Talmud, and he's a faker and a fraud and a con man, and his mother is a whore. And then there's the Jesus Christ in Islam, and he is just a prophet, just like all the other Arabs. He's just some Arab prophet, no big deal. Just like the Jesus of the Jehovah's Witnesses, just a guy, no big deal. And then there's the Jesus of John, of the book of John, and in that story, which is from the Bible, Jesus is the light of God, spoken in the beginning. And so that's the true Christ, right? That's the real Jesus, the real Christ. The real Christ is the light. And so there's a real Jesus. And so when you look back at history, or people who write books or write about historical figures, because the light is not a historical figure. The light is the light. It's not a historical figure. But the rabbis wrote one as a historical figure. That they invented a Jesus for the Talmud, and the Muslims invented a Jesus for their book called the Quran. And those aren't the true Jesus. So anytime you're looking at a historical figure, you should always consider the source of who's writing it and their biases and their prejudices. And so they said that and it could be for any historical figure, but that's what they tend to do. So anyway, the people who run NATO, the occupied power that clamps down and tries to kill off the Germans for the last, since the end of World War II, loves Al-Qaeda, loves to bring in Muslims to Europe and England and America to threaten the white European Christian population, to kill off the Christian populations of Syria, Palestine, and Iraq. Now, the people fighting the Al-Qaeda today, they're mostly Muslims. So, that's that. But the point is, you can see how history repeats itself. And that's why I've been led to believe, just by watching events that are unfolding, that the rabbis likely invented Islam in the beginning to exterminate Christians. And that was the reason for the rise of Islam in the beginning. Because every time I spent a lot of time arguing with Muslims in Facebook and so forth, they all have the same kind of view of Christianity that they got from the rabbis. And it's weird because, see, it's almost like when Christianity became popular, it started to become popular among traditionally Greek populations that weren't rooted in the Israelite traditions. So it became popular among the Greek people. And so it's almost like, well, the rabbi said, well, if they're going to spread this doctrine among the Greeks, then we'll spread our doctrine among these Arabs down here, and we'll use them as a battering ram to exterminate the Christian populations of the Middle East. They appear to have successfully done that. The Arabs never understood Christ to begin with. How could they understand it? The only people that truly understood the story of Christ were the people who wrote the story in John and in Matthew and in Mark, and later in Luke. But I don't know enough about Luke Acts. I've never been a fan of Luke Acts in the story of Paul. So, but John for sure, and Matthew for sure, and some of Luke and Mark. But anyway, those are the people who understood it, and they were Israelites. So they wrote it as Israelites, and they understood the doctrine when they wrote it. The Arabs never had a chance. Like, they never had a chance to understand it, because they would have had to understand the ancient doctrine, which they were never privy to. So it was easy to get them to believe whatever. It was easy to get them to believe the rabbinical view and use it to crush the Christian churches. What else is happening? Oh God. There's a petition to deny Sadiq Khan, who's the mayor of London and is a Pakistani Muslim, from being knighted. And this is Britain First promoting this, which is good. Why would they knight a Pakistani Muslim who ruined London? Stupid. Trump moves to end Ukraine war by blocking deep state's attempt to send an additional $24 billion to Zelensky, plus Biden prepares preemptive pardons to an attempt to stop Trump's plan to prosecute outgoing admin for human trafficking, sex slavery, and COVID crimes. That's from Alex Jones' Twitter page. Here's another article. After the Syrian army retreats from Hama, which is a city or town, the terrorists' next goal is to take the city of Homs. In addition, the terrorists will probably try to cut off the Syrian coast from most of the country in the future. There are at least 2 large Russian military facilities and then there's more. Yeah, they're really this is definitely the work of Erdogan. I would be very, very satisfied if the Russians used some of their powerful military technology to end the Erdogan government forever and restore Anatolia as a Christian, Orthodox, Russian, Christian, Orthodox territory. It needs to be. If anyone would have the will or the interest in restoring Anatolia, it would be the Russians, because America doesn't. The American government is Jewish, so they're not going to do that. The NATO government is Jewish, so they're not going to do that. The British government is Jewish, so they're not going to do that. They're working with the Muslims. They're working with the Muslims in Turkey. The only chance that Turkey has, or the only chance that Anatolia has of restoring its Christian identity, would be through Russian power at this point. And they don't really have the will to do it either, unfortunately, because they're also so heavily influenced now by Islam, by the Caucasus people, who, once again, former Christian territories that were subverted by the false doctrine of the pedophile prophet. They don't understand Christianity, and because they don't understand it, they think it's false. Because they don't understand it, because they don't understand the allegory, because they don't understand the iconography, because they don't understand the Old Testament, they think it's false. Christianity is not false. Christianity is pure. It may not be perfect. It may not be perfect in every sense of the word, because it's written by men. So it might not be the perfect, it may not be the perfect writing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's what they're writing about is perfect, and they're writing it using a certain theme, which is the traditional theme of the light and the 12. So that's perfect. Because that's the thing you have to know. You don't have to know every word of the Bible that was written by men to be infallible. It's not the words of the men that are infallible. It's the word of the light that's infallible. And the word of the light is not a book. It's something that comes to your soul called the truth. The truth is infallible. The truth is the light. That's the infallible truth. That's the infallible word that comes from God. That's not a book. It's not, the book is not the infallible thing. It's the word of God that's infallible, which we call the light. Anyway, what else is happening? Thomas Massey, Real ID was sold to conservatives as a way to prevent people who are here illegally from traveling or using taxpayer resources. It's fairly obvious now that it was a ploy to take more of your civil liberties. Absolutely. That's why we have to get back to our kindred people and the light, and which is the truth called Jesus Christ. It's the light and the support of our kindred people, which is how we get rich quick, which is what the title of this video is. How to get rich quick. How to get rich quick. Support your kindred people. Worship the truth and support your kindred people. That's how you get rich quick. That's how you get rich quick. You know how you get poor quick? Support this whole Jesuit Talmudic capitalist system that brings and imports in foreign slave populations as workers. That's how you get poor quick. Speaker Mike Johnson is retweeting something from Elon Musk. Elon Musk says here, if you exclude security guards and maintenance personnel, the number of government workers to show up in person and do 40 hours of work a week is close to 1%. Wow. This is exactly why we need the Department of Government Efficiency, says Mike Johnson. I agree with Mike Johnson and Elon Musk on that. I don't like all these government workers. They're basically a bunch of parasites sucking the blood out of the rest of us who actually have to get up and go find money every day and like survive. And you've got this group of blood-sucking parasites in Washington, D.C., who hate white people, who love Al-Qaeda, and they're the ones that are parasitically sucking the blood out of the American people and imposing their shitty, disgusting culture on everybody. And they've got all kinds of ways to remain in power. Hopefully they'll all just disappear. I don't expect them to disappear entirely, but less of them would be good. Anytime there's less blood-sucking parasites, that's good. Here's Alex Jones. What does he have to say?
For the constitutional. All right, Alex Jones here with a massive news story breaking right now. Of course, it's come out, and Trump's announced, and so has Tom Homan and others. The new orders are that they are going to criminally go after the human traffickers and smugglers, including the NGOs, the UN, the government officials like Mayorkas and others. And I've been expecting Biden to try to give them pardons, and my sources have told me exclusively that they are looking for pardons. Well, now Politico is reporting that Biden is looking at a whole range of pardons for people across federal agencies, but namely Fauci and others.
If they pardon Fauci, there needs to be some other way to get him. There needs to be another way to hold these people accountable if it can't be done. If they get pardoned, if all these criminals get pardoned, all the human traffickers, the sex traffickers, Mayorkas, Fauci, the whole network of NGOs that work with the Jesuit Pope and the HIS, the Hebrew International Aid Society, like if all those people are getting pardons, there's got to be another way, some other way outside of the pardon system to hold them accountable. And there's got to be some way it can happen. And I hope that no pardon in the world is going to stop that justice from coming to those people. That's what I hope. That even if they get their pardons, that somehow justice will find them somehow, some way, some mechanism around which they will meet justice for what they've done. That's what I hope. But let's hear what else
is the list here on this post. But that just shows you how real Trump is, because behind the scenes, he's got the task force geared up. Publicly, they've been saying they're going to go after folks. And that's a declaration of war by Trump against these people, because he knows they're going to come back.
It's dangerous. That's why they are hoping to assassinate our president, because he really does want to do these things. I believe I believe he really, really wants to hold these people accountable through the law, through our justice system. And they need to be held accountable because they've committed massive, massive amounts of crimes. And not just stuff like little crimes, the biggest crimes you can imagine. You know, human trafficking is one of the big ones. And I don't want to go into all the seedy details of that because it's too horrifying. But yeah, they need to pay for that. Syrian girl, I will never regret any sacrifice I made for my country. My only regret is I didn't sacrifice more. Syrian girl lives in Australia. So she lived in Australia. So what? She's welcome. I love Syrian girl. I don't live in Australia, but I'm sure that a lot of people in Australia love her just as much as I do. Because we're not a bunch of mafia like Antony Blinken and the people that run the media and have hijacked, NATO, that run NATO and have hijacked the Australian government through the Jesuit order and through the mafia, the Jewish mafia. We're not them. So we don't hate Syrian girl. We like her. She's nice. What else is going on? Fact check. There are absolutely no Korean troops in Ukraine. That is a bold-faced lie. Bold-faced lie. That's according to Douglas McGregor. Ooh, they got the face. Oh no, this guy's in trouble. Whoever the killer was, the assassin of the guy, the CEO that died in New York. They got this guy's face now plastered all over. They got his face. He took his mask off. What an idiot! This is a really messy. This is not a very professional hit. I mean, you can see the guy. His face is clear as day now. They've got him on camera, smiling. Face is clear as day. Yep, they're gonna catch this guy. What a fool! This guy blew it, dude. This guy blew it big time. Oh man, you can't do that, dude. You can't do that. I mean, this guy really blew it. This is not a pro. If you can't do a hit where you're walking around New York, walking in and out of stores or public spaces, not wearing your mask and smiling for the camera and showing your face and then going and doing a hit later. Because there's cameras everywhere, you idiot. That guy's going to get caught. That guy's toast. That guy is going to going to prison for life, dude. He's not a pro. That was a really stupid thing. Yeah, this guy's done. I don't know who he is. This guy will be caught within the next, I would say 24 to 48 hours. He will be in custody and he will never, ever get out of prison. He's done. He had an electric bike. He had this, that. He was on a phone. He's stupid, dude. That's stupid. That is stupid. If you're going to do a hit like that, you cannot look. If you're going to do a hit like that, right? You literally cannot show your face anywhere you go. You can't talk on the phone anywhere you go. You can't use a car. The electric bike idea was a pretty good idea. Public transport, like a bus, would have been an okay idea as long as you paid in cash, or that your face was never viewable, or your hands. You can't have any of your skin showing, and all the clothes that you're wearing from the time you enter the area, right? Like from the time you enter the area, you have to wear the same clothes, and you can't show any of your skin. Like you can't show your white hands, because you could see his white hands holding the gun when he did the hit, right? He's got his white hands. You can see his white nose and stuff in some of the pictures. Now you can see his whole face in some other pictures that they now have. So, the way to do a hit like that is you have to go from wherever you are, and then you have to change clothes so that whatever clothes you were wearing before, you're not wearing now. And then you have to get into town. You can't drive your own car anywhere because your license plate will be recorded all over the place in places you don't even realize, like in parking lots, up and down the freeway. You stop into a Walmart. There's actual cars that drive around taking pictures of everybody's license plates. So let's say you drove a car from here to San Francisco, and you stopped at a Walmart. Well, there's cars that drive around the parking lots and take pictures of everybody's license plates. So your license plate will get caught somewhere along the line, and then it'll go through a database that your car was in this area, and then you think you're safe because you're back in, let's say, some other area, and they're like, "Hey, what were you doing in San Francisco?" You're like, "Well, how'd you know I was in San Francisco?" "Well, we've got your license plate right here. It says you were in this Walmart up here off in Oakland or whatever." It's like, "Oh shit, busted." Anyway, so what I'm saying is you can't drive your car. You have to somehow get into the neighboring city without any electronics going off, without your phone pinging anything. Then you have to find the target. That's pretty hard to do without knowing in advance where the target is. How are you going to find out where the target is without using electronics? Pretty hard to do. It's pretty hard to find out where people are going to be and what time they're going to be somewhere without using electronics, unless you find out way ahead in advance and you just kind of follow the person around for long periods of time, which is expensive because now you're not working. You're like spending your time as like basically a homeless person walking around, sleeping in parks all the time. That can be very trouble. This guy's going to go to jail and he's going to go to prison. There's no way he's going to get away with this. I can see his face right there. He's toast. Here's David Icke. I didn't want to read. David Icke's getting so boring nowadays. All he talks about, he's just David. Okay, Musk's mate and associate is made head of NASA, from which Musk's SpaceX gets massive contracts. Okay, so what? What's wrong with NASA? NASA's not real. Blah blah blah. You have these everyone like, oh, I don't know. Look, NASA, whatever. Maybe they did fake some things in NASA. I'm not saying they didn't. I don't believe that the moon landing is real, but that doesn't mean that they're not able to get into space. Just because they don't show you what they're doing doesn't mean they're not able to get into space. Just because they don't show you, just because they lied to you, doesn't mean they're not actually getting in space. But no, I think whatever. I think space. I already know space travel is important. We need to get into that. That's very important. Yeah, I don't have a problem with space. All right. Syrian army regains control of the headquarters of the 87th Brigade and Hama military airport. Man, they're really having to fight off these Al-Qaeda over there. Thanks to the Russians. Here's Jimmy Dore. Remember when Al-Qaeda were head choppers and barbarians? Now your government is paying them to do terrorism and overthrow Syria, so they've been rebranded as woke, inclusive, and diversity friendly. Americans have no idea the U.S. is the world's biggest terrorist. He's right. The U.S. meaning Washington, D.C. That's who supports Al-Qaeda. Right. And that's why I've been saying for years now. I remember calling up the Dennis Prager show way back around 2000, like before 2010 or sometime back then, telling him way back then that NATO and the U.S. is backing Al-Qaeda. He's like, no, they're not. He's Jewish. Well, they are. He didn't want to admit it because he supports that whole network, right? He's part of that whole network with the Epsteins and all that stuff. It's like Dennis Prager, Jeffrey Epstein, Alan Dershowitz, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Washington, D.C. It's a big network. It's mafia, it's the Jewish mafia and Al-Qaeda. And you think they're opposites, but they're not. That's why, like the Jews are at war with Muslims called Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and Syria, but they're not at war with Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Al-Qaeda and ISIS don't attack Israel. So that's all you need to know. So they support ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Right? That's why it leads me to believe that the rabbis invented Islam to begin with. That's why it leads me to believe that they started this whole thing in the Dark Ages to begin with, to support Islam, to exterminate the light called Christ throughout the Middle East and in Anatolia, give us the Turkish Empire. Anyway, I guess we'll call that a wrap. Yeah, this guy, whoever this hitman was, he's toast. See his face clear as day now. Bye-bye. You're going to prison. Okay, everybody. Until next time. See you later.